Wonder if we can turn to the book of Exodus this morning. Book of Exodus and Exodus chapter 15. Kind of a weird place to start, right? Because it's like after all the plagues and crazy stuff happened, and it's on the way out of Egypt. It's on the way out of Egypt. Exodus 15 is a song that Moses and the Israelites sang to the Lord. What had happened is they'd just been freed from slavery in Egypt and just escaped from the Egyptian army. And they crossed the sea, and then the army was drowned in the sea. And they were like, wow, we escaped. This is amazing. And so they sang a song of celebration. A song of celebration. They had just been delivered from slavery. Wow, that's a pretty good thing to be celebrating. I would be celebrating. But as we know now, that's not the end of that story. It's not even the end of the book of Exodus. We're not even halfway through the book of Exodus. And even by the end of Exodus, they haven't even made it into the promised land successfully. They're not even halfway there yet. Kind of interesting that they sing this song. It says, I will sing to the Lord, for he is highly exalted. Both horse and driver he is hurled into the sea, talking about their escape from the army. The Lord is my strength and my defense. He has become my salvation. He is my Lord, and I will praise him, my Father's God, and I will exalt him. The Lord is a warrior. The Lord is his name. Pharaoh's chariots and his army he has hurled into the sea. The best of Pharaoh's officers are drowned in the Red Sea. And it goes on. It's a great song of praise, song of celebration about what God had just done in their lives for their nation. It's an amazing celebration of God's power. So good. I mean, we can sing that. Maybe not specifically about the drowning of people, but we can sing this about the Lord being my strength and my defense. He became my salvation. Amazing song. It's great. It's praising him for what he had done. But just like many of our own praises from our own hearts, it focuses on what God had done. But there's very little about what he will do. Great song, yes, but it only tells half the story. See, the next chapter starts off with the Israelites complaining to Moses and Aaron. They say in Exodus 16, verse 3, this is literally the next chapter. There's hardly anything between them singing this song of praise and then them saying this, if only we had died by the Lord's hand in Egypt. Wait, hang on. You were just saying the Lord is my strength and my defense. And you were praising him about delivering you from this army. And then all of a sudden you're saying, if only we had died by the Lord's hand in Egypt. There we sat around pots of meat and ate all the food we wanted, which, by the way, they were slaves. They didn't eat all the food they wanted. But this is the attitude that they've got now. But you have brought us out into this desert to starve this entire assembly to death. Wow. Chill out, bro. Hang on a second. We were just praising him. We were just praising God. And now you're saying this. You'd rather go back there and die. How quickly our attitudes can change when we're focused on the past. When we're focused on what God has done for me, which is okay, but if we're just focused on that, then we get into this danger. Because instead of just focusing on the past, we also need to focus on God's promises for the future. See, if only the Israelites had in mind in that time that they are still being brought into the promised land. It's a journey to get there. They just have to celebrate in the middle. You know, I think we can be like these Israelites. It's really good to celebrate what has happened, but really it doesn't require much faith, does it? I really think, and I'm speaking to myself here, we need to start celebrating God's promises more. We need to start praising Him for what He will do. We need to start thanking Him more for who He is, not just for what He has done. See, when we understand who He is, then we can celebrate, the future because we know His promises. We know that He is faithful. So my message this morning is titled, Celebrating in the Middle. Celebrating in the middle. I was talking to my wife about it this week, and we talked about how it's kind of like celebrating while you're still waiting. Celebrating while you're waiting. And we thought celebrating, waiting, okay, celebrating. Okay? Celebrating. There's a term you can take home with you. That's the alternative title for this message. Celebrating. Celebrating in the waiting. Something cool happened yesterday. My wife and I just moved into our first house. Yep. Yeah, so exciting. And a lot of you have sort of followed our journey and, come up and ask, how's it going? And really great. And, often the response would be, yeah, it's going good. We're just waiting for, insert house buying jargon here, just waiting for code of compliance. We're just waiting for this to come through. We're just waiting for, and by the way, we're still waiting for internet and still waiting for bins. But we're in there. We're there now. So that's really good. We're there. We started looking for a house around March. Do you guys remember March? The month of March? Yeah, so we started looking just before the first lockdown. Okay, so just before any of this crazy stuff started to happen in our country, and those good old times. Yeah, those were back in the day, eh? No, but we thought we'd found this nice house for ourselves, and we very nearly signed up to buy it. We were so keen, we were so ready for it, but then the first lockdown happened, so we couldn't buy it. We hadn't really had a proper look at it, really, and so we're like, well, we have to wait till the lockdown ends to do anything. So there we are, just sitting around at our house, and luckily this house was pretty close to where we were living at the time, and so we would go out and walk there and be like, it's got to be our house. There's our house, but we're still waiting. It's going to be our house one day, this year, one day. So we're in this waiting stage for a while, and then we got out of lockdown, and after weeks of thinking, yep, that's our house right there, we figured, might as well have a look at some other houses, just in case there's something better out there that we hadn't seen the first time, but, we'll probably get this house, right? We've sorted, it's in our eyes, we can see it. So we had a look around, and good thing we did, because we found a house we liked even more. But the problem was, with this house, it wasn't finished. They hadn't had the carpet done. There were heaps of things to still be done in this house to make it livable. And so again, we were back to waiting. And along the way, there were some little checkpoints the code of compliance came through, the title came through, and that was great. It was good to have those little checkpoints, but honestly, I found it difficult to celebrate. And people would say to me, oh, that's so exciting, that's so good that this has finally come through, and it was, and I agree, but I'm still not in the house yet. Like I'm still not there yet. There's still a lot to be done. Even when we finally got the house and we settled, we spent the evening there, but it was still difficult to celebrate that we now own this house because there was nothing in it. It was just this empty building. We didn't have plates and bowls. We didn't have anything to sit on except the carpet, and it was just like, this isn't our home yet. We're still waiting. It was so hard to celebrate. We were in the middle. We were on our way. We were still on the journey. Just like those Israelites. They had made it out. They had started the journey, but they were still in the middle. They hadn't got to the promised land yet. I think it's normal for us to celebrate what has happened in the past, and it is good. It's normal for us to celebrate our accomplishments. We celebrate birthdays as the number of years we have lived. We've successfully lived this number of years. Graduations to celebrate the hard work the students have done. But what does it look like to celebrate in the middle? To celebrate before we've actually arrived? Well, I think there is a form that we do really well of celebrating in the middle. I really love weddings. My wife and I went to a wedding recently, and it was so great to celebrate with the couple because, a wedding celebrates what is to come. A wedding celebrates the journey ahead of the couple. They make vows in faith and express commitment towards another person. We celebrate love, and we celebrate the couple and who they are. But more than that, at least at a good wedding, we celebrate God's presence going forward. We celebrate God being part of this marriage going forward, and thank Him for who He is, not just now, but in their lives ahead. That's what I love about weddings, is that it looks forward. There is hope, and we celebrate that there is a good future. We bless the couple, and we celebrate with them because of what is ahead. I think that's what it looks like to celebrate in the middle. You never arrive in marriage. I look around and I see some great couples and think, man, they just keep going. And it's like you never arrive in these kind of things. You just keep going. You keep going. So a wedding is celebrating in the middle, celebrating a future, celebrating something that you never just win and finish and end is like, yeah, that was great, awesome, I'm done now. No, it keeps going. That also is what a wedding is all about. And I think we need more wedding-like celebrations, celebrating what is to come, celebrating and praising God from a place of faith, and committing to the journey ahead. And that's another thing I like about weddings, is that there's a commitment that is expressed. It's like we're celebrating the fact that they're committing to each other. We're celebrating the fact that they're planning to go ahead in the future. But the difficulty with celebrating a commitment or celebrating the future is that we don't know what's ahead. We don't know. I mean, if the Israelites knew that, they would go to this promised land and there would be giants and it would be like this crazy city that no one thought they could do except for a couple of people, would they be praising or would they be scared? We don't know what's ahead. We don't know the timeline. We don't know the struggles. We don't know. How do we celebrate what we don't know? Well, I think that's where faith comes in. It's where faith comes in. And it's so important that our faith remains in God. who sees time differently to us, who sees the world and all the things around us differently to how we see it. He sees more. He sees further. He sees closer. See, if we put our faith in a God who just saw what we see, if we put our faith in someone who just was like us, that faith would be worthless. If our God, who we put our faith in, didn't see more than us, well, we might as well just put our faith in ourselves, like many people do. But what would be the point? That's not faith. That's stupid, to put it bluntly. Put it this way. Putting your faith in someone who doesn't see more than you is like a blind man crossing the road with the help of a guide dog, except the guide dog is also blind. It's dangerous, right? There's no point in that. You need someone who can see more than you. It's like reading reviews from people who haven't tried the product yet. Seen any of those around? This product is amazing. I can't wait till it arrives. What? It's like using Apple Maps. Okay, bit of shade. What I'm saying is our faith must be placed in something or someone who can see more than us, which our God does. Our God sees time differently to us. Our God sees our world differently to us. Our God sees us differently to us. Throughout the Bible, we see God proving himself to be that person. Throughout the entire book of the Bible. One time when he makes this clear, one of the many times he makes this clear, is in the book of John, and it's in chapter 14. So if you'd like to turn there, get yourselves ready. So chapters 13 to 17 in John's Gospel recount Jesus' final moments and conversations with his disciples before going to the cross. Now, we already know what's coming for Jesus because, we know that. And in fact, chapter 13 begins by telling us that the hour had come for him to leave. So these chapters and these conversations are being held at a time in the middle, a time of tension. Like he's on the way there, but he's not there yet. Jesus is basically on the way to the cross. He knows he's going there. He's not there yet. So John 14, verses 28 to 29 says this. This is Jesus speaking to his disciples. You heard me say, I am going away and I'm coming back to you. If you loved me, you would be glad that I'm going to the Father, for the Father is greater than I. I have told you now before it happens, so that when it does happen, you will believe. So Jesus here is proving to his disciples that he really is who he said he is. He's proving here to his disciples that he is the Messiah. Now, he's not proving it in that moment, but he's setting up the proof for a future revelation. As he says, I've told you now before it happens, so when it does happen, you will believe. He knows the future. He is faithful. Now, we all know Hebrews 11 verse 1, faith is being sure of what you hope for and certain of what you do not see. Well, listen to what Jesus tells his disciples in John 16, verses 32 to 33. He says, a time is coming, and in fact has come, when you will be scattered, each to your own home. You will leave me alone, yet I am not alone, for my Father is with me. I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble. Wow, what a great promise there, right? Thanks, man. But take heart. I have overcome the world. Notice how he doesn't say, I will overcome the world. I have overcome the world. How can he say, I have overcome the world, when he hasn't even gone to the cross yet? Like, the plan isn't finished yet. But the faith that he has in the Father's plan was so strong. He was confident enough to celebrate in the middle. Before he had gone to the cross, he was ready to say, I have overcome the world. He was celebrating with his disciples and saying, look, have peace, take heart. It hasn't happened yet, but I'm faithful to my Father. I know that my Father's word is true. You may have peace. I have overcome the world. And keep in mind, while Jesus was saying this, Judas and the high priests were getting a mob together. And Jesus knew that. And yet he still had the confidence to say, I have overcome the world. As the band comes, when you put these chapters into that context, into that mind space of Jesus is leaving soon. You know, Judas has already betrayed him. The high priests are coming with a mob. There's like, you can understand why he speaks like this. There's sort of this urgency for his disciples throughout these passages. There's an urgency not to do something, you know, not to go out and help him, to save him from these people, but to have something, to have peace. John 14 verse 27 says this, peace I leave with you. My peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid. In the midst of betrayal, he gives them peace. As his death is being organized, he says, don't be afraid. He knew what was happening, but he also knew what the outcome would be. Because he trusted in the Father, he was able to celebrate in the middle. The ability to celebrate in the middle is a testament to our trust in the Father. It's like a trust exercise. And by exercise, I mean we actually have to work at it. And I'm speaking to myself there. You know, throughout this journey of buying a house, I've struggled to celebrate in the middle. I've struggled to celebrate this time that we have to buy a house and the fact that we can even start that process and trust God that He will carry it out. I've struggled, but it's a trust exercise. So this week, can we work at this? Can we work at celebrating before we see the victory? Can we celebrate God's faithfulness ahead of time because we know who He is? And that's my challenge for you, to praise before the win. Celebrate in the middle. You know, as we finish in worship and we praise God, whatever you're going through, praise God like He is faithful. Can you stand with me this morning? We're going to sing this song, and such a great song. Let every breath I breathe pour out in praise towards the King. Every breath, that's a big call. It's a big ask. It's a big trust. But our God is trustworthy. Our God is trustworthy. What's the second line? You know what I'm saying? Come on, let's sing this together. He is trustworthy. He is faithful. He will do what He promises. Let's sing.